and welcome to Food Technology Online. Today we are going to be making a simple bread. It's very easy to recreate at home. It's not your traditional loaf of bread that you would be thinking that you would make a sandwich on, but it's more of a bread that you can use for dipping into things or having it as a side dish. I call this bread yogurt bread, and that is because of its main ingredient is in fact yogurt. Today I'm using a Greek yogurt, but you could use a plain natural yogurt as well. It's just important, kids, that you don't use a flavoured yogurt because then it's going to change the flavour of the bread. So that's one of our ingredients in our 2-ingredient bread, and the other ingredient is some self-raising flour. If you don't have self-raising flour, that's okay. You can use plain flour. It just won't rise as much. To that you could add some baking powder if you had some. Okay, this bread today that I'm going to make, I'm actually going to use the dough and then turn it into a type of veggie fritter. That's the way Isla likes to eat it, so I'm going to be making them for her today. This dough is great because it can be used to make a variety of dishes. You can make it plain, just have plain bread. You can add the vegetables like I'm going to add today, or you could use it as a pizza base or as a gozleme dough, which we have done at school in the past. So those of you who are watching, who have cooked this before with me at school, you will know that we've rolled them flat and we've filled them with spinach and cheese to make gozlemes, which is so delicious, right? Okay, so let's get started. Some of our ingredients we're using today, apart from the yogurt and the self-raising flour, we're going to be using some tinned corn, okay? It's going to be like a corn fritter, and I'm going to grate 1 zucchini, and I'm also going to add some frozen spinach. But if you want, you can have whatever ingredients you like. If you don't like spinach or you don't like corn, you might like to add some grated carrot or something different like that. Okay, so this dish simply uses equal quantities of yogurt to flour. That means if I use 1 cup of self-raising flour, I'm going to add 1 cup of plain yogurt. So let's practice our measuring like we've been doing at school. Making yourselves aware of the fact I've already washed my hands before I started, I've got my apron on, I've got my enclosed leather footwear on, and I'm making sure that my workspace is safe and tidy. I know I've got Isla here, but I can't leave her over there. She gets bored, so she's going to join in for fun. Here's my 1 cup measurement of self-raising flour. I'm going to level it off with the back of a knife like we've been learning at school, back into the container to be used in the future. It's important that we do that so that we make sure that we measure accurately. If you don't measure accurately, your dish won't turn out, okay? And that's the same with all things baking and cooking wise. You need to make sure that your measurements are exact to the recipe, otherwise you may get an alternative result. Okay, so we're going to add our 1 cup of self-raising flour to the bowl. And to that, I'm going to add 1 cup of Greek yogurt. Okay, adding into the bowl my 1 cup of Greek yogurt. It's important to scrape out your measuring equipment, guys, so that you're getting all of your ingredient into your mixture. Okay, we are now going to give that a stir. Yogurt bread, I am going to get out a grater, a chopping board to grate on, and I've got my zucchini ready. I'm going to make sure I've already washed my zucchini before I grate it, just to get any stuff off it. Tar. And then we're going to use tar. We're going to use proper kitchen safety. We're going to make sure that we are standing firmly in front of our zucchini and our chopping board, and that we are holding it tightly at the top using the other hand and grating carefully. To my dough mixture, I'm now going to add the vegetable ingredients. So we've got some tin corn that I've drained and then rinsed off and then let dry. Scraping our corn out of our bowl. I've got some defrosted frozen spinach. If you had some fresh spinach at home, you could just chop that up with a knife. I happen to have some frozen spinach on hand. And to that, I'm going to add my grated zucchini. Bread is broken and shared in many countries around the world. It can have a variety of historical or religious meanings. It is a staple food, and that means that it makes up the basis of our everyday diet. That is mainly because it is so easily to make and easy and cheap to buy. When we're looking at food equity and the ability to access ingredients, we know that flour and some other ingredients can be very hard to come by. So I understand if you can't recreate this dish at home because you haven't been able to get your hands on flour, that's okay. But this dish is a cheap dish to be able to make at home, and by adding a variety of vegetables, you can make it very nutritious for your family. So I've now mixed all my ingredients into my dough, as you can see. I'm going to preheat my fry pan and add some olive oil in there and let it heat up a bit, because the way this bread is cooked is that we actually fry this bread. So we need the pan to be nice and hot for it to get that nice golden crust on the outside. So my pan is preheating, and I've put a decent amount of oil in the pan, and I'm going to add a spoonful of the dough mixture. Okay, now you can add as much mixture to depend on the size of the fritter that you want to make, okay? So I'm just going to make smaller ones, but if you wanted to make larger ones to have as a meal with like a side salad or something like that, then you can do that. So once we know that our pan is hot enough, and we can tell that it's hot because we'll be able to feel the heat, but if you do want to test it, then you could add a small amount of your dough mixture to the pan and check that it starts to actually bubble away and cook. Now when we're frying, it's really important that we don't leave our oil unattended, okay? So at no time should be you leaving this to preheat and walking away from your kitchen. That is because the hot oil can at any moment catch on fire if we leave it heating for too long. Okay, so now we're adding spoonfuls of our yogurt bread mixture to the pan, and we're going to flatten it out when it's in the pan, okay? So you're just going to take a spoonful of mixture, scrape it out using another spoon, otherwise it'll get all sticky on your hands, and then you're going to flatten it down to make like a nice flat fritter, okay? And let them cook away. So our fritters are now cooking away. We're going to wait till we can see that they've got a bit of a golden crust on one side before we turn them over. We're going to turn them over using a spatula. You can use a metal one or a plastic one depending on what type of fry pan you are using. Okay? To flip them over, make sure you've got one hand on the handle. Other hand obviously has a spatula. You're going to carefully put your spatula underneath the dough, and you're going to flip them over. Now, if your oil is too hot, or if your stove's too hot, you should have it on about a medium heat, but depending on your own cooktop, you may have to adjust that temperature. If it's too hot, what's going to happen is the dough is going to cook really fast on the outside, and the inside's still going to be raw and gooey. So we need to have that temperature down low enough that the bread is cooking all the way through. Okay, so here's the finished product. I have served it up on a plate just with some rocket leaves, just as a bit of a side salad, but you could just eat them as they are, or maybe even have them with some fried egg or something like that as a brunch meal. Okay, so give it a go at home, guys, and let us know how you go. Send us some pictures, and good luck.